Alright guys, I'm coming back to you with another unboxing here. So I've already told you about the tree that fell a few days ago here that I had to cut up and put in pieces into the backyard. Now I actually have a chipper here that I bought from, I think it was Harbor Freight, that I plan on using to kind of break that tree down. I will continue to use both this Milwaukee hatchet saw and my 14-inch Eagle saw to continue to cut that lumber or cut that tree up into smaller, more manageable pieces. If there's any wood that I can salvage to maybe set to the side to let it dry out to make projects, I will do that. However, all the little branches that are sticking off, I found that when I try to use the chainsaw with this, if they're big enough, it's easy enough to do. But when they're smaller, sometimes they kind of get caught up in the they can actually get sucked up into the actual chainsaw, either on this one or the other one. And so as a result, I was going to get some hand pruners to prune it, but it's actually quite a bit to actually do. So I've checked out a couple videos on this product here. This is the M12 tool only 25-34-20 M12 Milwaukee Pruner. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what it looks like. This is the battery only model. And you know, according to my Bible in Ecclesiastes, it says for you to find joy in your work. And I feel like I'm always having work to do, new assignments, new things, new responsibilities. And one of the ways that I find a way to enjoy the work that I have to do is by making the job a little bit more pleasant, a little bit more enjoyable, by utilizing tools to make it a smoother process for me, to make it less stressful on my body. It was nice to use my Eagle chainsaw and even the Eagle, or the Milwaukee hatchet, to cut down that tree and cut it up into pieces. And I imagine this is going to be nice as well to use to cut off those little branches so I can process those with my actual chipper. Now I know a lot of people probably wouldn't take it this far and purchase something like this in order to do this job. However, I want it to have as minimal effect on my body as it possibly can, because I am getting older and you know, I really don't want to do the work anyway, but I have to. So anyways, this is your brushless M12 pruner. It only has a 3-year warranty. I'm not quite sure, but a lot of Milwaukee products seem to be coming out with this 3-year warranty, which is I would say concerning for me, especially when I think about my Milwaukee M18 12-inch miter saw, which I may have issues getting repaired. Anyway, so this thing, you have a power button here, you've got a mode button that gives you the opportunity to open the jaws wider, or you can have them open a little bit less, so that basically it kind of simulates the cuts being faster. So that would be for smaller branches. It comes with this protect, and the way that you activate the tool, you have a safety trigger here. So you would put your hand in here to grip the safety, and then you would actually pull the activation trigger. It's got some rubber bumpers on the sides so that you can lay it down on surfaces. I did notice that they have, I think it's for about maybe 30 bucks, there's actually a sleeve for this, so you can hook it on your belt and it'll fit in a pouch. So it would make it a little bit easier to carry around as you're using the tool. Now I'm going to put this tool through its paces, but for right now, let me just throw a battery in there and see how it works. All right, so I've got a M12 battery here. This is a 2.0. Pop it in. I'm gonna power on the tool. And right now this is in mode 1. So as I actuate the trigger here, it opens up there. And as you can see, I can kind of variably move the trigger. It's got a variable trigger, so it doesn't go all the way down just with one push. You actually have to depress the trigger fully, and when you let go, it actually opens up. Now, when we switch the mode, now As you can see, there's a difference in the actual opening. It's not quite as wide. So we'll switch back, and now you can see how much wider the opening is. So I'm going to get my battery charged, and we're gonna go out and we're going to get to work on that big bushel of weeds. It's not gonna, or a tree. It's not gonna be today, obviously, but we're going to do that, and it's going to go in this video. All right, guys, thanks for taking time to watch this portion of the video, and we'll pick back up when we get out there and actually start to manage the yard. So I'm going to close it. I'm going to power it off, and then I'm going to put the actual safety thing on there. It does come with this lanyard, which is cool, so you can kind of, you know, put it around your wrist and hold it like that if you wanted to, and keep it with you as you go. As far as weight is concerned, it's not too bad. I can see maybe you might get a little bit tired over time, but I think it's a reasonable weight for the size and the capabilities of what it can do. My understanding is on one of these smaller batteries, you can get quite a few cuts. I don't remember the exact number of how many, but that's easily Googleable. So anyways, guys, let's get this thing to work, and then we'll come back and talk about how we felt it worked. All right, guys, I'll see you then. All right, guys, we're in the backyard here, and I'm trying out these pruning shears. And as you can see the size of the job. I'm about just under 5'5" as far as my height, so you could kind of use that to kind of determine how big this bushel is of tree. So that's the Harbor Freight chipper that I bought. It's an electric chipper. While I was doing this, I kind of feel like, you know, I kind of abandoned it after a while because it just seemed to be a little bit more work than it was worth. What I'm doing here though is I'm cutting the branches off in really small pieces, just kind of getting a feel for the device. I want to see, you know, how well it actually does the job that it's been created to do. And as you can see here, as I'm putting the tree branches down into the chipper, I'm having to use a little apparatus there to push things down. And even, you know, with the way that I'm doing this is going to take forever. And you can see I don't even have a catch-all for the actual shavings for the chipper, so I just wanted to see how this all functioned. And this is in the evening. As I said, I get home around about 5 p.m. or so, and so I didn't want to go too late into the night, obviously. And you know, 5 p.m. is kind of late for a tool of this that makes this much noise. One of the things I can say about the actual pruner is it worked as advertised. As you can see here, I've got on my little boat helmet with the face mask. Probably don't need it in this circumstance, but I was just kind of getting a feel for how it feels to have to wear it, trying to see how much it encumbers me or whether it does or not. And you can see here as I'm fiddling with the chipper why I'm basically going to just abandon that after a while. The pruner has the ability to, you know, cut off some nice sized branches, even ones that are probably outside of its rating. If you pull the trigger a few times, it'll kind of work its way through there. So it's actually a pretty capable device. As I mentioned earlier, I wonder why Milwaukee has gone to the 3-year warranty on a lot of their tools. It, you know, kind of gives me a little bit of pause because, you know, going back to that, I'm keep harping on that 12-inch miter saw and the fact that it failed, you know, probably around 4 years or so. If it had a 3-year warranty, then I would just be kind of stuck. Right now, in theory, I can take it in and possibly get taken care of. However, you know, I haven't had positive feedback on getting that done. So we'll have to see. I think that if these tools are made and, let's just say theoretically, if they're made to only last for 3 years, that really changes the game when it comes to, purchasing items like this, because at the end of the day, a lot of people that, especially tradespeople, they actually hand tools down to, maybe from grandfather to, father to son. And if tools are being manufactured in such a way as to where that cannot happen, even though you may pay a premium for a tool, that's actually very disconcerting, if you would say. I'm not thrilled with that. I mean, of course, companies, they need to make their money, and that's what they're in business to do. But as a consumer, you want to know that when you spend your money, that you're going to get your money's worth out of it. I'm kind of moving mentally to the mindset that if a tool does not make you money, whether it be actual cash money, or if it does not make you more efficient to where you make more money. So, obviously if you're more efficient, that means you could get more things done in the same amount of time, which can ultimately end up in more profitability. If it doesn't do that, then, especially in economic times like this, it just doesn't really seem like things make sense to purchase. So I don't know, it's just something to be thought about, to really consider, how we spend our money, what we're spending our money on. Like for myself, I've really shifted a great deal to, tools, which I kind of look at as a form of augmentation, because it allows you to be more productive. I mean, theoretically, I could be out here breaking all these branches down manually, but the chance that I may get injured or that I suffer, from some kind of, hand fatigue or small muscle injury is high. Whereas right now, all I'm doing is pulling the trigger and the tool is doing the work. So who knows, maybe it may be more efficient if I just grab it and just kind of break it up and snap it up. But then what will my body tell me later? Because with this particular situation, after I finished this cut session, my finger was a little tired from pulling the trigger, but the rest of my body was fine. I didn't, have to bend anything over my knee or, worry about trying to snap something and it popping up in my face. None of these things were a concern. I just let the tool do the work, and I just progressively and methodically moved through the task. Now, as I'm cutting this up, like this is, the first time that I got out here and used these pruning shears, I'm thinking about multiple things. So as I'm cutting it and I'm just throwing it on the ground, I'm kind of wanting to get a feel for the tool, but at the same time, I want to trim off as much of this bush as I can. And I'm kind of thinking about it in two parts. I'm like, okay, I'll come back and I'll get some heavy duty trash bags, and I'll pick up these pieces and bag them up and have them all ready to go out with the lawn barrel, in, like 1 week at a time. So I'll fill up the lawn barrel and then I'll have trash bags of the rest and I'll just dump them off. Or if I have the time, I could actually just put them in the back of my truck and take them to the dump and get rid of all of it. But I want to go ahead and cut it down, and I'm cutting it down in smaller pieces because, and I'm making sure I cut around the joints specifically, because a lot of times if you have like a bifurcation, like a wide joint or something like that, even though you're using heavy duty trash bags, that's where you're going to typically get that force to actually puncture the bag. If you make your pieces smaller, and if you make sure you cut off all the, more of the jagged edges, then you can obviously fit more in a bag, but also have less of a chance of the bag actually tearing. So, it's just trying to work a little bit smarter as opposed to harder. It does take a little bit more time. It's a little bit more meticulous, but, there really are no trash bags that I could just pick up those huge logs and throw them in. And obviously, if I take this bushel just as it is, even if I threw it in the back of my truck, it's not really using space very well. When I was a lot younger, I used to work at a company. It was a rival to UPS. I think it was called RPS. I don't even know if it still exists, but you know, you learned a lot about how to pack things in a truck so that it actually fits in there in the most space-saving way. And so I guess I kind of got that in my mind right now as I'm cutting this down, making it, you know, into smaller pieces so that I know when I go back later and I pick up the pieces and I throw them in the bag, it's all going to be a smoother process. And while I'm using this tool, the more cuts I make with it, the better feel I'll have for how it works. I mean, if I just like took this out and say I just cut the branch higher up closer to the trunk and I just made like 4 or 5 cuts, that's not telling me much about the tool. By comparison, if I go and I'm cutting the you know, making multiple cuts, that's actually going to put me in a position where I'm actually going to be in a better situation. So yeah, just working through this bushel. It's going to take me a while. Actually, at the time of me doing this voiceover, I'm still not completely done with this cutting up all this tree. I'm significantly further than what you see here, but as I mentioned in another video, I was still studying for my ACLS, BLS. Like for me personally, I like to be over prepared for anything that I need to do. The more prepared I am for a task, it's going to take less out of me when the task has to be done. That's number one. Number two, it leaves a lot more brain space available for when, you know, life throws you a curveball. You actually have more attention to be able to focus on whatever that task is. So I don't know if that really comes out clearly, but, you know, I understand what I mean in my mind, and the fact of, you know, I'm always trying to do my best to stay one step ahead of the game in regards to what I need to take care of in life. You know, obviously coming home and seeing this tree laid out across the front yard was not really ideal. And so all the other areas that I'm actually more efficient in, that allows me to have the time to be able to shift to do a task like this. Now, clearly, you could just pay somebody. You can go out and, you know, pay whoever to actually cut the tree down and do all this manual labor that I'm doing for myself. However, there's a couple issues with that. Number one, I wouldn't learn anything, right? So after doing this job of, you know, cutting that tree down, taking the 3 hours to get it cut from the front and dragging it all back here into this pile, and then now adding more hours of trimming this up like this to get it ready to go away, I am learning. I'm getting actual experience. So after doing the job, then like say if someone gave me a bid on a job like this, I would have a better idea on if I'm getting my money's worth, right? I have zero clue as to how much it would have cost for someone to come out and do this. Now, obviously, see, if they rent like one of those, if they have a big truck, then they could have just thrown this stuff into the back of their truck. They wouldn't have to do this meticulous job of what I'm doing here, which is, you know, pruning it down. Now, you know, let's say, based upon, you know, the images you may have saw in my other video of how the actual tree looked, let's say that could have been done for $200. They came out, they cut it down, and they dispose of it. That's worth it. Now, if the job is actually, let's say, I don't know, $500-600, whatever, because typically prices, you know, in a capitalistic economy, it's based on need. If you need something to get done, it's more than likely going to cost you more money. If you don't really need it, it's going to be cheaper. You know, that's just the way things go. And so whenever you're in a difficult situation, i.e. when you come outside and you see a tree that's fallen across your property, well, you know up front that it has to be moved, right? You can't just leave it there. It's not going to just basically disintegrate and go into the ground. It's not like leaves. So if you call out someone to come and help you with that, they know you need it done. And so Now, obviously, if you know someone that's in the industry that arbors trees and does things like that, then you have a better chance of being taken care of in a kinder way, if you will. Because I mean, think about it. If you knew someone in that industry, if they're friends with you, they're not going to price gouge you. That's number one. Number two, if they're in that industry, they already have the equipment, so it's so much easier for them to do it. They would come out. I mean, I cut this thing up with a friggin' battery powered chainsaw. That was not the most pleasant thing. You know, I actually considered going to get a 20-inch Ego chainsaw to do this job, to try to make it a little bit more, I guess you would say, enjoyable, or basically to give me a little bit more of an aggressive edge while I'm doing this. However, you know, my wife didn't really agree with that concept, so I just took what I had. I did buy a new chainsaw chain the day after I cut this up. I found that the little hacksaw saw, it was actually cutting better than my Ego. But then again, I have not put as many cuts on that hacksaw, Milwaukee hacksaw saw, and the Ego, I've had it for many years and I've never sharpened it, so you know that could, you know, obviously be the reason. Now, I've been out here for a while. I think during this whole segment, I mean, it's been edited to some degree, but during this whole segment, I was probably out here for about an hour. And you know, you'll see kind of like how far I actually got with the trimming. And you know, this is real life for me. I mean, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning on this day. I went to work, I put in my 8 hours, I come home, and this is, you know, what I'm doing into the night. I don't have any complaints though, you know, because when I go to bed at night, I sleep well, because I know that I did my best. I know that I worked hard. I wasn't doing any kind of shadiness, no kind of, I mean, I don't have any time for foolishness. I'm all about trying to get as much work done as I possibly can on any given day. And, you know, like, you know, I work a job, and I'm thankful for my job. I'm grateful for my job. But at the same time, you know, my job pays me a salary. They pay me, you know, money to take care of all my other responsibilities. And, you know, I've just come to realize when I sit down with paper and pen, and I realize that, you know, I can't pay for someone to do every single thing in my life. I have to do some of this stuff myself in order to continue to stay financially above water. You know, I don't carry debt. I do not, you know, I use credit cards for the rewards. I don't charge things and not pay them off at the end of the month. As a matter of fact, I really, you know, try to encourage my wife as soon as I buy something to just pay it off, because, you know, just by the way that the credit cards are created, they give you the opportunity to buy something and you can get anywhere from 1 to 3% back on your purchases. That's in my mind, that's just a coupon, right? And then, you know, you kind of come up with other, you know, interesting ways to kind of help, you know, your household to be more efficient, to be more effective. You know, my wife, she takes care of, you know, my daughter's hair, her own hair. She's the primary homeschooler at home. And, you know, she makes a lot of the meals, not 100%. I'll cook, you know, sometimes I primarily, you know, I like making strange things. I like eating filet mignon steak. You know, I used to like I think it was ribeye, and then I kind of graduated to the filet mignon simply because I do not like fat on my meat. I just like just straight meat. And then also I like to make this dish. It's called Tom Yum Gai, which is a Thai soup that, you know, there again, these are things that I used to go to restaurants to eat, but I just decided, you know what? It's cheaper if I do it myself. I can, you know, go somewhere like Walmart or wherever, get a filet mignon steak for about, I don't know, $14, $12, $15, something like that. And, you know, treat myself and my wife. I'll get one for her, one for myself, and put a little salt and pepper on it. You know, sear it on both sides, throw it in the oven for a bit, get it out, and have a nice little meal. That's just, you know, that is also DIY to me. You know, things that you pay for outside the house, you know, carries a huge increase in cost. And when you do things yourself, you just, you're just cutting back, you're trimming. It makes my money go further. So what I'm doing here is making my money go further. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I'm tired of cutting, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.